Hello everyone, welcome to Shankar Academy. So this is the second video of the continuation of this previous video called as the Women's World Cup. Okay, so we are going to see about the first November first weeks, some important highlighting events. So the second event what we are going to see is about the ISRO's recently launched of satellite event. Okay, so normally in all the competitive examinations like the Public Service Commission examinations like the SSC, Railways, IB examinations, either in the UPSC examinations or in TNPSC examinations, normally what they are asking about is about the satellite launches. What is the vehicle used to launch these satellites? And then somewhat rarely they asked about the dates. For example, when the November 1st week or November 2nd week, November 3rd week, like they ask about the dates. Okay. And then they asked about what is the launch vehicle particularly used for this launching. And then what is the purpose of the satellite? Mainly for the mapping or for the communication or for any other purposes. And then third thing is about the what is the orbit they are placing. Okay, so these are the scope of the questions which are asked mainly from this satellite launching events. So what is the highlight of this recently launched events? Okay, so the recently launched satellite is named as CMS-03. So what is the first scope is what is the launch vehicle which is used for this launching satellite is they're using the GSLV vehicles. Okay, so normally the ISRO is used two kind of vehicles for satellite launching, which is called as one is a PSLV and second thing is a GSLV. So after this, we are going to see about this. What is the difference between the PSLV and GSLV? So first, some key points like what is the main launching vehicle, which is GSLV Mk3. Okay. The second thing is about what is the purpose of the satellite? The purpose is mainly for the communications. So communication in the means not only for the civic purposes, but also for the defense purposes. Mainly this satellite is launched for the focusing on the communication between the navies. So we are entirely depending upon this foreign satellites for the naval communications. So if there is any war-like situation which is happening, so if the ships are placing in the Indian Oceans, they need to be communicated properly and without any data theft. So in order to protect our ships from this data theft, we should have our own communication systems. So which means we need to have some own communication satellites in order to make the data secret, data privacy. Okay. So coming to this main purpose is in order to making the communication safe. We have launched these satellites, particularly focusing on the naval communications. Okay. And then third thing is on which orbit it has been placed up. Okay. So the main focus to placing this communication satellite is on the orbit, but is the satellite has been placed ISRO by the ISRO in this geostationary orbit is not. They placed the satellite in the geosynchronous transfer orbit GTO. Okay, so this is where our satellite has been placed up. So from which it is going to be placed in the geostationary. So how is this process going to be happen? So okay, so we are now getting some details in an elaborate manner. So first thing is the difference between the PSLV and the GSLV. So previously, our satellites are launched using the two kind of satellites, which is called as one is called as the SSLV, small satellite launching vehicles. Okay, and then after that, due to its low performance, our ISRO has been upgraded in the 1990s in order to placing some heavier satellites, because normally our satellites, the starting point of these ISROs, we are entirely depending upon the foreign nations for the satellite launching. So after some intense research from our ISRO scientists, we have launched the SSL, which is called as a small launching vehicle, which is normally used to launch up from the Thiruvananthapuram space center. Okay, so from there, ISRO scientists has developed some power. Okay, so in the stages of cryogenic, solid propellants or liquid propellants. So the first time we have developed the vehicle called as from the SLV, we moved into this PSLV vehicles, which is also called as a satellite launching vehicles, normally used for the small weights, which is it can carry up to 1,750 kg of, that is what the PSLV's capacity. After that, 90s, mid between the 1990s to 2000s, we have launched another powerful launching vehicle is called as an GSLV, which is expanded for the geosynchronous launching vehicles. Okay, so from this launching vehicle, we have developed the capacity more than or equal to 5,000 kg of the weight capacity. So in order to carry some heavier satellites, because we need to, if we need to carry some long missions like launching to the moon, launching to any other nearby planets, we need to carry some heavy weights because the fuel itself costing some heavy weights. So in order to carrying the heavy weight, we are launching this GSLV satellites. Okay, so until now, we are able to carry only up to the 3,000 kgs of satellite. More than 3,000 kgs, we are entirely depending upon the foreign nations for launching the satellites. But for the first time in the India, we have launched 4,400 kg of the satellites, which is this ISRO's GSLV's CMS-03 mission, which is weight up to the 4,400 kg. And then coming to this, which is called as an GSLV MK3, because it's the third generation of the GSLV. GSLV is normally manufactured for the higher performance. Among these, the first generation is a GSLV MK1, but it has been abruptly failure, which has been launched only a few number of satellites, and that too in failure stages. Okay, so after that, ISRO has developed for the second generation of GSLV MK2, which can carry up to the 3,500 to 4,000 kgs. But on that vehicle, we are not able to carry much more missions because its engine stages a lot of failure systems. Okay, so after that, the renovated engines and the most reliable GSLV mission for the GSLV's launching system is GSLV K3 mission, which is also called as fondly called as Bahubali of ISRO, which means powerful performance. Okay, that is why it carries the name is called as Bahubali of ISRO. So coming to this PSLV, it carries a small number of weights, but still now for the ISRO, this PSLV is the most nearest and most dearest satellite launching vehicle because it carries some 60 to 62 missions until now. Among these 62 missions, up to 56 missions has been passed up successfully. So obviously, this PSLV is fondly called as an though the GSLV MK3 is called as an Bahubali, which can carry some heavier satellites, but till now we have launched only single digit missions from this GSLV MK3. But this PSLV is the very reliable launching vehicle of the India, from which the ISRO has been launching up to the 60 to 65 missions, even including the foreign satellites, which is recently we have placed up to 4 satellites from this PSLV. So that much reliability and credibility is given to this PSLV because due to its engine performance and also to its successful missions. Okay, so coming to this PSLV, one unique performance of this PSLV is this is the vehicle which is used for carrying the Mongolian, also called as the mission which is launched to research about the Mars. Okay, so now coming to the second point about the orbits. Okay, so what are the different kind of orbits which are in the atmospheres, and what is the usage? Okay, so the first orbit we are going to see is LEO orbit or low Earth orbit, which is located between the approximate distance of 160 kilometers to 2,000 kilometers from the Earth. Okay, so that is in an outer atmosphere. Particularly, it is located in the layer called as an exosphere layer, where which this low Earth orbit has been located up. So what is the main importance of this low Earth orbit? All the major satellites, except this communication satellites, all the mapping satellites and all other small satellites are all placed in this low. and capturing by the different kind, which is launched by the different kind of countries. And one more important system is the International Space Station, which is launched from this low Earth orbit, which is launched in the 2001, which is carrying its 25 years of mission successfully by rotating in this low Earth orbit. And then second major orbit is the geostationary orbit. This low Earth geosynchronous orbit. This higher distance orbit is called as a geostationary orbit, which is located at the distance of approximately 35,786 kilometers, which is a round off of digit about the from the Earth. Okay, so until this distance, the satellites won't be launched up. Okay, so for that, ISRO scientists has been used, or all other scientists from all around the world, they're using some other techniques in order to launching the satellite, which is by placing the satellites in the orbit called as an geosynchronous transfer orbit. Okay, so what is the main usage or main purpose of placing the satellites in the GTO orbit is mainly until this distance, which is near to the which is located between this low Earth orbit and geostationary orbit, which is located above the 2,000 kilometers, which is approximately about 3,000 kilometers. This GTO orbit has been located up. So okay, so from which the rocket is used to carry the satellites and is placed in this orbit. From this orbit, there is some chemical propellants which is placed in the satellites itself, which is used to placing the orbit by its own propulsions, and then they used to place the orbits placed in the GT orbit to the geostationary orbit, for which they are used for the communication purposes. They normally not use any rockets to launch the satellites to place it up in this geostationary orbits. So this is the importance of the GTO orbit, which is located where kind of questions will be asked in the examinations. Okay, so the summary of this ISRO mission is ISRO CMS-03 or GSLV CMS-03. So what is the main purpose? It is for the communication purpose, and its launched vehicle is GSLV Mk3. And where it is going to be placed up? So first it is placed in the GTO orbit, which is also called as an geosynchronous transfer orbit. But at the final stage, the main orbit which is going to be placed in the geostationary orbit. So the distance of the orbits from the Earth is the low Earth orbit or geosynchronous is located in the approximate distance of 160 to 2,000 kilometers, and from which the next orbit is called as an GTO, geosynchronous transfer orbit, which is located approximately about the 3,000 kilometers, and from which the final orbit is called as geostationary or higher Earth orbit, which is located at an approximate distance of 36,000 kilometers, which is mainly used for the communication kind of satellites. So do follow us for the any other kind of recent updates. Thank you.